Michael,
Raz,
how was your day?
it's good. I'm here.
Liking your shirt.
Thank you. I didn't match you today.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And they didn't match either.
That's fine. I like diversity.
Yeah, I like it. Here we go again with, this is the second time we've done, actually the third filming of,
I want to say
third filming of a group of people. We did Choong and Dersheen as like husband and wife, Angel Central, plug and play guys. We haven't shipped that one. I knew I'd always been wanting to talk to you, but I was like, we should do the firm, right? So that's the idea. So I'll let you guys kind of give your short spiel, but we have Aditya and Remi from Elevate VC. I don't think a household name in the Southeast Asian VC space, but you can refute that if you want. But I think it's good because you guys do something a little bit different. We've been friends for a long time, so I would say I know about you, but I don't think everybody does. So it's a good chance for you guys to kind of bookend it with what do you do and kind of what's different about you. And then we'll jump into the questions.
Sounds good. Firstly, thanks for having us.
Awesome.
Looking forward to a good chat.
Yeah.
You're right. We're not a household name. We do fly under the radar, both because what we do is so specific and it's so differentiated, and secondly, because we don't work with any consumer companies. So we aren't trying to build a brand with consumers. What we are, or who we do try to build a brand with, is large enterprises who end up becoming the customers of the companies that we invest in. So if we take a step back, Elevate invests only in deep tech. So we invest in rockets, we invest in quantum computing, we invest in drones and robots and nonsense that that takes CO2 out of the atmosphere. So those are the kinds of things that we like to invest in. Many of them are not super sexy. All of them, almost by definition, don't go to consumers. So we are not expecting to ever be a big household name, but the folks that we like to work with are the ones that are really changing the world in very dramatic ways.
And I would say that DPI and household names have nothing to do with each other, so that's okay, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's in fact, though, if you look around the world, the companies or the funds, there are a few that are very good at marketing, but some of the best ones out of Silicon Valley, you would never have heard their names because they do deep tech as well. Yeah. And are not household names.
Yeah.
And you usually invest in early stages of, this deep tech.
Yeah, we like taking companies from 0 to 1. So we do super early. We do pre-seed, we do seed. Seed is probably our sweet spot.
Wow.
But we do a lot of incubation. In fact, Remi heads, along with Choong, our Ignite program. Maybe you want to share a bit more about that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't even know what that is. So go.
So Ignite is our early stage pre-seed program, where it really started from us looking at across the full spectrum of startups. There's a large number of them that are in that spin-off, pre-spin-off stage. Oftentimes, for example, professors or PhDs considering whether to spin off or not. And we thought, hey, if we could go in and have a chat with these people, perhaps it could help them figure out whether they should or should not spin off. And if they do, then we can support them in the earlier stages. And that's where Elevate Ignite was born. So internally, you could sort of see it as early stage pre-seed investments, whereas the main fund invests in a bit more closer to seed. So that's Elevate Ignite.
And where are you trying to get them to spin off from? The universities, A-Star, or do you work with A-Star? Like, how does that
So
look?
our key sources of deal flows are firstly from other founders, or our founders, I should say, other VCs, NUS, NTU, A-Star, SUTD. So those are the usual suspects.
Got it. Interesting. Yeah, wasn't aware of that.
And you also support them the following stages, or you keep your sweet spot?
So if we've invested early, i.e. pre-seed or seed, we try and follow on after that. But if we haven't, then we typically aren't likely to come in brand new into a growth stage funding round.
And how did you guys meet up to do this? What's the origin story?
So, Remi, do you want to go or shall I take a crack at it?
I'll go first.
Hopefully it's the same story. But
we're about to find out.
We're going to find out.
Okay, so the origin story for myself, I started entrepreneurship really young. And in 2013, I started my second business. Then I was trying to raise VC at a point in time. And obviously in 2013, the VC ecosystem there I witnessed firsthand wasn't as developed as I would have liked. and was very Silicon Valley centric, wasn't so much Singapore centric. So I shut down that business and I started hosting open house barbecues where you come, you invite your friends here. I was trying to figure out what to do next. One of my friends was then at Spring Singapore, effectively said, hey, be the change you want to see. This is exactly what we want to develop. So come join the civil service and do it. I thought it was a crazy idea to get an entrepreneur to join the civil service. So I joined the civil service for 5.5 years and went to a few places, did my rotations. 2017, I landed up at what was then Spring Seeds Capital. And Spring Seeds Capital was just taking shape in terms of commercializing of deep tech. So right time, right place, got pretty lucky. And there I also witnessed firsthand the importance of deep tech to Singapore's economic future. So I really bought into that. And I also witnessed firsthand how much it takes to develop that ecosystem, the skill set to invest in deep tech, and working with founders in deep tech is very different from working with founders that are non-deep tech. So it all accumulated to a point where I realized I need to bring this knowledge, all of it, into the private sector. And that's when I met Aditya, who decided to do a deal with me and then pull the plug 9 months down the road. So he poisoned my reputation in the Singapore government and forced me to come out and join him.
It was all a ploy.
So that was my origin story.
Yeah. Do you have the same story?
Yeah, we looked at a deal together, and I think it was quite interesting because the way both of us look at deals, the way we kind of complement each other was really interesting, I thought. And Remi comes with a lot more structure. For me, it's a lot more of a look into exactly how to build out the sort of revenues and for a company, especially in deep tech. And so we found when we started collaborating on looking at this deal together from two sides of the table. I was an angel investor back then, and Remi was obviously with Spring and then Seeds. And we found that together we formed a far clearer investment thesis. Unfortunately, in this particular case, the thesis was no. After 9 months of working on this deal, but it was we realized we both had the same North Star. Let's go out and invest in deep tech because we both believe that that's really what's going to change the world. And but our approaches were very complementary. And he has skill sets I don't. I'm not sure I have any skill sets that he doesn't, but it was a good mix and match.
Other than pulling the plug.
Yeah.
Maybe that is your skill set. Yeah.
But I want to double click on deep tech because for some people, deep tech have different meanings. And when you, both of you, I hope you thought the same when you said deep tech. Why did you go specifically on that direction? What wired you? Because deep tech can be cybersecurity, where I'm resigning, for instance, or other technologies, but the deep tech that you are referring to, it's a bit extreme, I would say.
So I think we are quite extreme, which is why we invest in what we do. But we are looking for deep technological or scientific moats. That is a default of any company we invest in. And I think there are different ways to look at it. I think this is what VCs should be doing. If you look at the history of venture capital, it started in Silicon Valley, and that's where the first investments into folks like Intel, Fairchild Semiconductor started. That was in the 70s, 80s. We went into networking, which developed your Ciscos of the world, and then Genentech, etc. I was fortunate to be an undergrad studying engineering at Stanford when Google, etc., were first invented, and we came out of that. And at that point, I found VC went, it's kind of split. One went into what I thought was called technology, and the other one went into more consumer or the exploitation of technology to create new businesses, which was the internet at that time, and a very smart way to go about things as well. Now, for me, I went into what I always thought was technology. So I was in semiconductors for a long time. I was then, I helped set up Asia Pac for a company that did what is now called IoT. We were one of the first few folks that did it. Both exits were quite large and brought a lot of value to not just the customers but also to the employees and to the founders, of course. So in many ways, the only thing I know personally how to do is deep tech. So, whether it's semiconductors, whether it's IoT, whether it's path-breaking technologies that change how people view the world or how the world works, that's what we like to invest in. And that's why we invest in what we do. By the way, we love cybersecurity. We just haven't found the right company to invest in yet.
Okay.
So
we should.
I'm pointing to Raz in case people are hearing the audio. I'm pointing to Raz. I want to I wouldn't say digress. It's more of Jeremy Tan's been in here talking about B2B. We've had he and Go talking about, and some few people we haven't shipped episodes of. And we kind of, I'll ask this question with the North Star that we want to make the Singapore ecosystem et al. Southeast Asian ecosystem better. But sometimes I get flack for when I start maybe going negative. You just kind of hit on what's different about what you do. It's not consumer, it's B2B, it's deep tech. If you remember, EF used to be here, Entrepreneurs First, and it was I kind of associate them as a deep tech accelerator for the most part. And for some reason, it didn't pan out, right? They pulled out, and no one really has done anything like that. I think you're one of the few firms that are even here doing that. Maybe you know of others, so you could correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe Singapore should be doing more of this. And
when you say this, what do you mean?
Deep tech, B2B, enterprise, focused on something that would be unique to the capabilities of Singapore, right? You obviously feel that way because you're doing it, but I'm wondering, what's preventing more of this from happening? And is the ecosystem even able to properly take care of you guys? Is there enough funders after you guys? Is there enough markets being developed? Because what you're doing is difficult. So I'm kind of wondering, what's your report card on that, and why isn't more of it happening? And what do you guys think can be done to keep moving in this direction?
We are... Firstly, we're a young ecosystem. We only started as a real venture capital ecosystem about maybe a dozen or so years ago. And so it takes time for things to mature. Now, with deep tech, I believe we're doing things, again, we're biased because this is where we are based.
Okay.
And yeah. But, Singapore has been investing into deep tech for a long time, for over 30 years. And this is something which the US started. That's how they created their initial set of Baby Bells, Xerox Labs, etc. I mean, that's where Silicon Valley started, right, from US government funding. China did something very similar. Israel had a very similar approach through its military, but again, it was government-led funding. So I think that's the only way to really start or to get or create the spark for deep tech to grow. And that's why we are here, because we think that the Singapore government is doing a great job at developing that. Recently, you would have read that Singapore has put aside 440 million Sing dollars to both invest and co-invest into deep tech companies only.
And what is the practical way that actually works? Is it funding alongside you guys, funding in you guys, helping around come together? It's one thing to give you these top line numbers, which I'm not arguing with them. It's more, what is the practical way that actually is going to get deployed from your vantage point?
So A, it's all of what you said. But B, and maybe Remi, you want to share more about some of the grants?
Oh, yes. So the 440 million actually refers just to the investments bit. The greater number, there's a far larger number in the billions at what they call the research, innovation, enterprise level. So 440 million is channeled down to startup SG equity, which today has a budget of about $1 billion altogether now. And within research, innovation, enterprise, as the name suggests, funds are then channeled into helping universities do research, channeled into ecosystem development, into, for example, there are a number of what they call centers of excellence and centers of innovation that's sitting all around Singapore, typically in the research institutions. A-STAR has some, NUS has some, NTU has some. And that all of that comes together to form that ecosystem that says, all right, it's not just about doing that research, it's about spinning off, it's about post-spinning off, it's about bringing you to global markets, it's about helping you figure out what's the best way to do your manufacturing, small scale here, large scale perhaps in some of the neighboring countries, so on and so forth. So that's this whole very full spectrum, very complete thinking around that. And that's where the RIE sits. And SG Equity obviously is the one that Elevate is working most closely with, because we are in the investor side of things.
And is this an evolvement of the strategy they've been doing, or do you guys see this as like a renewed effort as of late?
So personally, I think it's you could call it a refinement, but I think it's a big refinement. Lots of things have changed. So a few big examples and results as well that we are seeing right now.
Yeah.
So one is the amount of, as Remi just pointed out right now, getting a deep tech startup off the ground is very complex. It's manufacturing, supply chains. How do you go to market? How do you go to market globally? And that takes time and effort. So there's a lot more capital, I think, now coming in to take research from a lab bench through productization out to customers. So all the way from lab to market. So bench to market is where things are happening right now. We are thrilled by that, because obviously that's really where we start to come in. Once you start to productize, that's where Elevate likes to come in. So we think that's a very big deal. Two, you're now starting to see some second-time founders, not just from Singapore, but globally come in. Because Singapore, unlike a few other countries, is far more welcoming of startup founders from anywhere. So we do have more of an open door policy. Yes, people might quibble about the nuts and bolts, but really, I think Singapore is
people
far
just
more
like to
welcoming.
quibble.
People do like to quibble. And so we're seeing far better talent come in now into Singapore, more than we've seen before.
From where?
From all over the world. So you see folks come in both from the university system to do their PhDs, etc. But and if you walk around the streets right now, even in the CBD, which is where our offices are, I can count off the top of my fingers at least 8 founders that I know who had large exits from different parts of the world, US and India, that come straight to the top of my mind. I don't know whether I can share their names because I haven't talked.
But they're coming back here to do another one?
Not back.
Yeah.
They are moving here potentially for the first time to do their next startup.
Here,
out of Singapore.
And when you say talent, do you mean researchers, developers? What do you mean by that?
I mean founders.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think the same way Silicon Valley has a hub and spoke system, the technology can be developed out of Georgia, Atlanta, or you can have your R&D house or your customer support group sitting out of there. But the sort of C-suite, including your head of R&D, would be sitting in Silicon Valley.
Right.
Similarly, Singapore has the potential to be that hub with spokes going out into the region to really develop the entire region as a whole. And I think that'll be good for everyone here.
I agree. I want to shift a bit from your history, because now we are, we spoke about the fund, we spoke about the ecosystem, but I want to more go deep on your added value, and you're a very humble guy. I can see that. But you have exited multi-billion-dollar companies, hardware and SaaS, and you saw things. What are the best lessons that you bring as an operator in these huge companies? I don't know if they were huge, but I'm referring to the numbers, and deploy it inside an early stage investor.
So fortunately, I had the opportunity to go from small to huge. And then when we were acquired by even larger companies. And a few things hold true. If you have an entrepreneurial mindset, and by that I mean you look at the kind of technology you have, you see a large pressing problem, and you try and join the two. And that's where you really drive value, right? So, for example, in my old semiconductor days, we came up with a new chipset that helped make something as mundane as electric fans more efficient, which reduced power bills across all of India. That was one of our chips. Or we did the chip that actually helped make e-bikes possible, and that enabled a whole new mode of transport in China. Again, we were the first company that built those chips. Now it's, the beauty of that is, and at that point I was helping run BD for China. And what we saw there was these companies clearly needed to run batteries, to run motors far more efficiently, to make e-bikes possible. We knew we had some technology back there, but if we really needed to piece it together to provide a compelling product that had high reliability, that was easy to mass produce, and bring it out to customers, figure out what the value proposition was, because then you're selling for your value, not just cost plus. And those were some of the things that we brought to the table. Now, I've worked in 5-person teams all the way up to eventually 500, 600-person teams. So it's, but you have to keep that ball rolling if you want to continue to grow. You talk about me having worked with big companies. We weren't always big. We started as small companies, and we helped build them up. So that's some of the operational benefit that I think we as Elevate try to add to any of the companies we invest in. It's easy to cut a check, but how do you take, we were talking about this whole lab to product to operational or, revenue generating product. And that involves a lot of steps beyond just manufacturing or beyond just, producing. What does sales look like? How do you price? Is it value based? Is it cost plus? How do you go to market? What do channels look like? What are JDAs, joint development agreements? How do you collaborate? Do you have distributors? Do you have sales reps? Do you go direct? There's so many different things to think about. And as a young startup, I think that's what you're really looking for, and that's what you really need, and that's what drives us. As in that, I would say, the DNA of Elevate is really to help you with that, and that's why we exist. It's not just for the check. I think there's a check would just sink a company in many ways. I think it's. I shouldn't say it would just sink. Some founders are far better at sales than others, but you do need to think about productization and sales. And I think that's really where we try to help deep tech founders.
Do you agree with the statement that company evolve, meaning that first year versus second year for the third year, it's a different company, maybe different people? Do you think companies need to be changed from the moment they're being corporate, getting the first check, till the moment, they're getting 50, 60, 100? How do you see that?
So you're talking about inflection points for
Correct.
a company, right? And how
Yes.
they differ. I think you always need to have a bit of an incubation hub, no matter what size you get to think of the next $1 billion product that you're going to build. But yes, companies do need to structure. Unfortunately, sometimes that means a bit more bureaucracy. But today, would you consider Google or Meta to be a startup? Probably not. And would you even consider them to be deep tech? At the time, Google was the height of technology. It had a big technological moat back then.
Maybe if Sundar Pichai was here, he was debating you.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's deep tech. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so at some point you do need additional folks. And, maybe one of the things we even tried to do at an early stage is to succeed in some of these industries, you've got to have the war scars. You've got to have the cuts and bruises that you can only get if you've been working in that field.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we need to help, or sometimes founders ask us to help them build out the senior leadership team around them. In some cases, it just involves interviewing. In some cases, it involves helping strategize what that team should look like. Do you need a CPO? Do you need a CRO? Do you need a new CEO? How do you work through these things? And obviously, our preference is for the founder, or at least one of the founders, to be CEO. But then, how do you bolster the leadership with additional folks that can really help make this company successful? Because it's a 10-year play. It's not a 2-year play, right?
And when you guys, a lot of times when we're talking to VCs that would say non-deep tech, or obviously there's software involved, in a lot of your stuff, I would say there's physical things involved, probably in almost all of them, fair amount of them, correct? A lot of times, like the normal process is send me a deck, we do a Zoom call, we have some meetings, do some due diligence, we make a decision. But I would think in deep tech, you can't follow that pattern and have the same success. So what is the way you guys arrive at yeah, we should look, because I would think it's different than most software plays, right?
Absolutely. So earlier, Aditya talked about the DNA, and he was coming from a perspective of value creation post-investment. But that same DNA crafted our strategy from the top, our vision from the top, the way we source for deals, and I'll go a lot more into that, the way we do due diligence as well. And we look at, for example, in due diligence, one of the key things that we do is reach out to the corporate networks, the multinationals that we have painstakingly built up a relationship over the last 5 years or so. And we ask them, firstly, is this a pressing problem? Is your hair on fire? Do you want to get it solved yesterday? And if yes, what else have you seen in the market? And is this going to be the best in class solution? Why would you use this solution? And lastly, how fast would you adopt it if this solution were to be available? And very often, what else would you like to see in this solution? So then that flows very nicely into value creation, into sales, into productization, into feature developments. And it's not sort of siloed, right? We like to look at sourcing as siloed, diligence as siloed, but all of that DNA flows throughout the whole Elevate system. And this is how we look at building up a venture capital fund that specializes in deep tech and nothing else.
If I can just add to that a little bit, I think, and this is really where Remi shines more than most of us, is we aren't looking for the big, shiny new lights that are out today. If we do our job right, we've invested before something becomes big and shiny, before it becomes the next big thing, right, to invest in. And so our diligence process is quite different. We get to know founders. It's not here's a check for a 7-figure valuation, let's go, right? Or a 9-figure valuation these days, let's go. In our case,
are valuations up or down right now?
Well,
it's reasonable.
If it's AI, you start talking in billions.
So founders have said they've gone down. You guys have said it's more reasonable. It's okay, right? Like there's been a reset, right? A little bit. I don't know deep tech specifically, but I feel like in the normal scheme of things, there's been a reset in Southeast Asia.
There has. I think I would want to say AI continues to be in a bit of a bubble. Not continues. It is the latest bubble.
Is AI deep tech for you, or is it depending on what they're building?
Depending. Yeah, I think if it's a wrapper, it's not deep tech for us.
Yeah.
Or not deep tech enough. And there's nothing, just to be clear, there's nothing wrong with a wrapper.
Yeah, I would say we could point to Cursor as wrappers are okay,
100%.
But I get what you're saying.
Yeah. So just because you're not, or because you don't fit into our mandate or our vision, does not mean you're not, you don't have a defensible technology or an incredible execution model.
So give me some examples of what in AI would be considered deep tech from your guys' opinion, because I think this is interesting. Is it model building? Is it applied science via the model? What's
100%.
Yep. So the way we look at it is, so firstly, yes, deep tech, but within the deep tech pool, we also need to look at what's Elevate good at and what Singapore is good at. So if I draw 3 circles and just look at the middle of that Venn diagram, we like, for example, companies that have ownership of the data pipeline, usually proprietary ownership. We like companies that have a unique knowledge of the database that they're working with. So for example, in healthcare data, if you're able to access 40, 50 years of lung cancer data and build an AI model out of it that
and you're also a cancer-related specialist, maybe.
Absolutely.
Now they got something that hardly anybody has.
Absolutely. Yeah. And these data are very difficult to unlock. Yeah. So again, proprietary data sets. So those would be very interesting. And that's just on the software side of things.
Yeah.
We also look at AI from a hardware side of things. So for example, photonics is a very huge talking point among the fabricators, the chip designers in AI today. And those are some of the areas that we're looking at.
Got it. I have one other question. Sorry. Are there other firms like you in the Singapore or let's say Southeast Asian ecosystem? And I ask this because I'm more curious. Is there more of this starting to go on with the government's push and things like that from what you've seen?
We would love to see a lot more.
But
always.
Right.
Well, I think you've got government-funded other deep tech funds, through various thematic entities, etc. I think there are one or two that are likely to come up. We can see a bit more movement in the
because
space.
of what the money now they're willing to put in, or the fact that they're going to start some of these things.
I think deep tech is starting to become sexy.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we're starting to see a few more funds. That said, we think that there are a few other operators that are also starting their own deep tech funds now, which is very...
There's rumors of a Temasek VC fund coming, right? Am I incorrect on that one? Or
Temasek already has a few. Right?
Got it.
One for physical technologies, one for at a seed stage.
I've heard of a new one, but
one for biotech.
Got it.
And they're constantly innovating, and I think that's a good thing for the ecosystem.
Yeah.
We'd like a lot more of that. So far, I would say we aren't seeing too much competition.
So then the other side of this coin for this same question, what about getting your company's follow-on rounds? Is it coming from here or generally is coming outside of here?
So go ahead, Remi.
So one of the key things we are seeing in ecosystem growth in the last 2 years is that, number one, more and more corporate customers are coming to Singapore to look for solutions. And number two, perhaps related to this, is that more and more global investors are paying attention to deep tech companies coming out of Singapore. So that's one of the, in fact, this is one of the key work streams that Elevate has. Aditya and I are reaching out to a lot of these global investors, especially from the Valley, from Japan, from China, for example, and they would like to invest in some of these deep tech companies. So we're seeing increasingly...
And these are funds or?
These are funds, these are family offices, some of them are sovereign wealth funds.
But how do you know the inflection point when now it's the time to discuss, to present the relevant, portfolio company to this fund? When is the time?
So I think if we've done our job, or if the company's done their job well, and if we found the company at the right time, then within a couple of years, once you're generating what we like to call sticky revenues, so high quality revenues, so revenues with large profit margins, with 5-year contracts with customers, then all of a sudden, no one cares whether it's deep tech anymore. The risk has been sufficiently reduced. So at that point, I think it's open season for any growth investor that can add value, right? Again, I don't think it's just about a check, but how do you add value for that growth stage? That takes a very different mindset. And I think that there are some brilliant growth stage investors out here, and they are looking at many of our portfolio companies. They have invested in many of our portfolio companies. One of the stats that we found, we had our AGM a couple of months ago, and over 70% of our portfolio companies have been invested in a further round by an external investor. Just to be clear, this isn't an internal round. We're 80% Singaporean or Southeast Asian companies. So 70% of our portfolio has had an up round with external investors. Now that's a pretty good leading indicator.
Very good number,
right? So now that doesn't mean all of them are going to exit or be billion-dollar companies, but it's a good initial indicator that there is interest. And these are companies dating all the way back from 2019. Now, the major acquisitions of our portfolio have been done by US companies. So that we have seen to be a bit
skewed. Which is the norm, I think, especially for your sector, right? But
yeah. Now, there has been some competition with other firms. For some reason, the US companies have won out in a few of these cases, but we have seen interest from Japanese acquirers, interest from European acquirers. But in the few that we've exited well, it has been US acquisitions.
So the average is around 5 to 6 years from early stage to the next round, like in a deep tech, like this type of portfolio.
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
As in from seed to Series A.
Yeah, seed to Series A.
It's
average of 2 years. Okay.
It's gotten a bit extended recently. I'd say it's probably closer to 3 years now, or 3 years plus.
Because people are slower to pull the trigger to buy.
But I think it's still decent because it's deep tech, high risk.
Yeah. So people are looking for, next round investors are looking for the risk to have been de-risked significantly from when we've come in.
Yeah. I want to we spoke about the companies, consumers, funding, how value you guys creating, and I want to put the light now on the founders. Okay. Mm-hmm. You see thousands of founders, I guess, hundreds of the past few years. Which signal do you get? You say, okay, now it's the one that I want to hear more.
Yep. I personally like to I like to answer the question of what is a founder's superpower. And I believe every founder has one, whether they are conscious about it or not. And I'll give you some examples, right? So JM, the founder of Moon Technologies, has this insane capability to rally people behind his vision, whether is it rallying customers, rallying his staff, rallying the investors. And for example, Tomaso, which Aditya is proudly representing right now.
Tropical Labs, zoom in there.
Yeah, CEO of Entropical Labs. And he brings so much logic to running a business, which sometimes doesn't quite make sense because you want the startup to be more passionate many times. But it works so well despite him bringing so much logic into every aspect of the business. And Siddharth is the same thing. He brings so much order to a startup land which is supposedly supposed to be chaotic. And so it is amazing to see founders doubling down on what I call their superpowers that allows them to build a business that is sort of in their shape and in their brand. So that's one thing I look out for.
But how do you recognize this, superpower? In a first conversation, do you have like do you ask them what's your superpower?
Many times I would say they don't know what is their superpower. And I think part of it is taking a bit of experience working with deep tech founders. And a large part of that actually is that Elevate, when we invest, we don't chase trends. So we tend to work with founders for some time before we invest. In PolyB's case, I was having quarterly meetings with Siddharth on his business for 3 years before we invested.
Before you invested.
Yeah,
Lots of coffees.
Sorry?
Lots of coffees.
Lots of coffees. And at the same coffee shop where we stay quite close to each other at the same coffee shop. Yeah.
I hope you have your member card over there.
Yeah. So it does, sometimes it does take some time. Sometimes it's evident quite fast, but we need to find a superpower.
So for you, Remi, the superpower, what is for you?
For me, it is doggedness. You've really got to have the vision. You've really got to believe in what you're doing because it's a 10-year war to succeed. It is not for everyone. If we don't see that inner mongrel, we just don't think you're going to survive.
But how do you measure that?
It's not easy to measure. You've got to
see if they've had their ears chewed on and
they're
still going.
Exactly.
I don't think it's...
It's tough.
I will give you an example.
Yeah.
Okay, where I'm trying to press, you talk about pressing. So I'm trying to press on the button.
Yes, please.
There is one investor, a very well-known one in Israel. I'm not going to mention his name. He said, one of my ways to know the resistance, I'm digging into the founder history, meaning from his childhood. I want to understand what he's been through. How's the family that he was living in, city, things that he did from that time to the time that we are, to the present. And I'm getting indicators of which type of decision did he make, how he react to pressure. He speak about failures. This is his way of doing things. Do you have the different way or?
So I think we've seen the same podcast. I know exactly which VC you're talking about.
Okay.
And we have immense respect for them. But yeah, I think those are some of the areas. But earlier we were alluding also to having the war scars, the scratches from having been in a particular industry, and we are looking for that. If we get the sense that a founder does have the determination and the doggedness, even despite not having been in that industry, then we try and help them pair with someone who has the war scars from that industry as well. Mm-hmm. But if we don't, it's one is growing up with a very difficult childhood, potentially. But the other thing is if you've been, and this is where, our respect of founders is just so high, especially the ones that we've been fortunate enough to partner with, is, many times, like Remi talked about Sid from PolyB, right? 3 years before the first check was cut. That's a long time.
What funds were they living on prior to that?
He was bootstrapping.
Okay, got it. Which allows you to see the doggedness there, right?
Yeah, you see it.
This is
who else is going to invest in them, right?
Yeah.
Or, for example, Simon from Equatorial Space. One of my favorite stories is, so they make rockets, right? And
rockets for what? Because for me,
microsat launch.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Commercial use,
okay.
Right? And I still remember the first time, and Remi had met them before a few times, and the first time I walked into their lab, which was an industrial estate in the middle of Singapore. Now, I caveat that by saying it's a non-flammable. One of the beauties of their technology is it's a non-flammable fuel under normal circumstances. You have to do a whole many things to make it blow up, right? So it's completely safe in an industrial park before anyone gets too excited on your podcast. But I remember walking in, and there's this lab bench about the size of this desk on which is sitting a rocket, way oversized, much bigger than this bench. And on one side is this fluffy little thing. Now, again, think about it. Walking in, I had no idea that the fuel is non-flammable, right? No idea. So you walk in, and I go, "Hey, Simon, what's this like little pillow blanket stuff over there for?" Is that, in my head, I'm thinking, and I think I blurted it out, is it because you're worried that the rocket is going to fall? And I'm kind of standing next to the door ready to dash as soon as kind of rolled over. And he goes, "No, that's my sleeping bag." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I sleep here through the week, Mondays through Fridays." And that's, you ask about doggedness, that is about as dogged as it gets.
Yes.
Right? And he's been doing this for at the point we invested, I don't know how they survived, but they'd been doing this for 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
4 years, 5 years?
5 years.
5 years.
Shock.
So this is not, these folks exist in Singapore. Simon is Singaporean. These are not.
Maybe we just don't hear enough about them, right? Because you can see what gets LinkedIn posts, and you can see what people write about. Like, this is one of the reasons we started the podcast was there's not enough talk about some of the authentic players in the space. And to me, deep tech has a lot of them because it's a much harder thing to work on, right?
And that's why we set up Elevate, because we didn't think the deep tech founders, the folks sleeping on the floor that, in industrial zones, the folks that were building things for 4 years with no funding, were ever going to get a look in, because the focus, rightly so at the time, was consumer internet because of a digitally native growing population.
Yeah.
And but we were just seeing some incredible founders out there that we felt needed backing, and we had to back, and there was no one better than us to back.
Well, and what's the LP journey been like? I mean, you don't have to name names and stuff, but more from has that been difficult to be a deep tech fund in Singapore? Because you have to raise money yourselves too, right?
Of course. So I think there's a lot more recognition that Singapore is not just a consumer tech hub or a generalist.
Well, I would argue the
hub.
consumer stuff has had its oxygen snuffed from it, and maybe for good reason, but at the same time, that's probably bringing awareness to the fact that it wasn't the only play, right?
Essentially, I think oxygen will come back. I think into consumer as well. It's we've seen enough cycles. I got out of college when, just as the internet bubble was about to burst, or the .com boom and bust happened. So we've seen enough of these booms and busts. I think this is a bust, or we're in a bust period right now, even for consumer tech. I think it's coming back. It might take a year, and we'll come back stronger. We come back with more processes in place, and I think we'll be the better for it.
It'll be different, but
sorry,
it'll be different, I think. But maybe you're right. Yeah,
and potentially more resilient.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's going away. I hope it's not going away, but I strongly believe it's not going away. I think it'll be back, and it'll be back stronger. From a deep tech perspective, I do think LPs, at least from what we're seeing, LPs are very interested in differentiated strategies. We are definitely not a generalist fund. And I think that's what draws LPs to us. So don't get me wrong, the vast majority of capital still goes to generalist funds, but the overall percentage has been growing a bit more into specialized funds. And that's what we've been tapping into. Fund one was a lot of folks that I'm very grateful to for having backed us. But Fund one was a lot more HNIs, a lot more family offices. Whereas Fund two, speaking of folks, looking at longer term returns, looking at differentiated or specialized funds, we have a far bigger institutional play amongst the LPs from all over the world.
Beautiful.
So that's been very, we feel very grateful again that people have the trust in us to do the diligence, to do the portfolio growth. To me, it also signals a realization that there is some really good deep tech coming out of Singapore. And we now have the mandate to continue to back such founders.
Yeah. Just to speak about monetization, can I ask about like a ticket size? Maybe there is a founder, she's listening right now, I'm sleeping on the floor, I'm having something. How didn't met these guys?
Come talk to us.
And she's like, okay, and I don't know how much money should I ask? Like what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we start at seed stage. We start at US $500,000 per check, and we do reserve a rather significant chunk of our fund for follow-on rounds. So typically it takes about 3 to 4 rounds before we are tapped up in terms of net exposure from the fund, and that's for seed stage. For pre-seed, I would say no check size is too small, but what we like to do at that stage is to effectively sit down with the founder. And I shouldn't say most, but a majority of deep tech founders think that they need far more money than they really need. For various reasons, we can go into that. But what we do is to then sit down and say, okay, this is the first 10K where we're going to spend it on. Why do we need to spend it? This is the second 10K. Typically, it goes to about 150K and they go, we have no idea what else. So we then say, all right, let's maybe double that, maybe add another 50K. You only need 200 to 300K if you are fresh spin-out. So then those check sizes, they are typically a lot smaller, especially if there are 1 or 2 co-investors coming alongside. So we are a lot more flexible with the pre-seed check sizes than the seed stage, which I would say by and large is about 500K US.
Well, that's our ticket size, right? The 500Ks.
Yes.
Typically, it's a $2 million round. We're very happy to lead. I would say the last 10 companies we've invested in, the 2 million, if we're leading, has been oversubscribed fairly quickly.
It's other regional VCs or also some overseas or what?
Everything. VCs, CVCs,
Nice.
sovereign wealth funds, etc.
And going back to that, it's like more you're putting the money for the prototype, I guess. This is where the monies go when you say like 10K, 100K.
So at pre-seed, it tends to be about productization. So again, going back to the due diligence that we do, we tend to ask, what would you like to see in a product for corporate customers? And that amount of money is to help them get to actually a very ugly, I would say, version of that product, and then put it in front of the customer. And if the customer says everything works well, just make it look nice, you actually want to get there. Right, instead of beautifying it, polishing the wheels and everything, and then putting it in front of the customer. Yeah. Exactly.
So if you're familiar with TRL stages, it basically means technology readiness, right? It goes from 1 to 7. At 7, you're able to sell a product.
Okay.
So we're trying to get companies from TRL in the pre-seed stage. We're trying to get companies to level 7 as quickly as possible. So whatever it takes, right? How do you kind of accelerate that process? And that's what Choong
so
and
it can
Remi.
functionally work. You may not want to put it on your shelf or something, but it functionally works.
And people would pay money for it.
Got it.
Or enterprises would pay money for it.
Learn something new every day, TRL. Because there's 2 of you, I think our closers are going to take longer than normal. So we're going to jump to those, but we'll leave one last question. What are you guys excited about in your ecosystem specific to Singapore in the upcoming years? We always want to leave on like a good note because we've been bantering a lot.
I'm excited about the number of multinationals who are looking at Singapore as a supplier of deep tech that will solve some of the biggest problems, because this has been missing for the earlier parts, I would say the earlier half, earlier 3/4 of this deep tech commercialization journey, and now it has started to happen. Very excited to see more multinationals, but also very excited to see more local companies actually buying innovation from local startups. And I do think that once that happens, we'll have even more global investors putting their eyeballs and attention on local deep tech startups. So that's what I'm excited about.
Got it.
I'm going to say I'm excited by how the founders that we are seeing now are far more mature than they were 5 years ago when we first started. We are seeing the quantity of high quality founders that we're seeing right now is higher than we've ever seen before. The speed and therefore the speed at which we're doing deals is also the highest we've ever done them at. So we are quite excited by the quality of founders that we're seeing now out of Singapore, and I only think it's going to improve.
Got it.
Good news, man.
That is good news. All right, so we always have a standard pack of closing questions, and these have been fun for people. So we'll start, and we'll hit you first, Remi.
Sure.
Like, what would you tell your 20-year-old self that you know now?
Don't try to plan your career path. The job that you're looking for does not exist. Be a better version of yourself every day and forge a new path instead of trying to follow someone else's.
Got it.
Wow.
That's pretty profound. That's a tough one to follow.
You have to follow.
Wow.
I'm going to say, I'm going to build on Remi's. I'm going to say I would tell my 20-year-old self to always look for things in which you have passion and where you see big value and impact. Because I think through my career, and unfortunately my career is not unfortunately, but my career has been longer than most. But I would say the times when I found my passions and values kind of coinciding, like right now with Elevate, that's been the most exciting periods of my life.
Yeah, and I think it's hard to find that though, right?
Yeah.
We probably go through a lot of searching to land on it.
I would probably say it took me 20 years to get there. But
the reality.
You have different passions in different ages.
Yes, that is true.
That makes sense.
Yes.
What do you do for your? I'm going to start with you. What do you do for your mental health, physical health?
So, I do play sports. I like paddle, but one of my routines every morning, and for this I have Remi to blame, because he got me into drinking high quality coffee. Wow. So now every morning.
So you're a coffee snob.
He's a coffee snob.
Right.
I'm a barista. I make him his
He's
coffee.
A follower.
I'm a follower. Exactly.
I won't tell people what I do. It always floors people.
But, one of my mental routines today, I have 3 kids, they go to school, before work starts, I will make my own cup of espresso every morning. And that, it takes 3 to 4 minutes to make, 3 to 4 minutes to drink. And that's my kind of...
And you do it before everybody's up?
No, after everyone's out the door,
okay,
before I go into work.
Let the madness leave.
Let the madness leave. So I have 7 minutes of
madness
zen.
at the morning, man. I have the same trick. It's man.
So that's my kind of refocus, rezone every morning before going out to work.
Nice.
Good one.
He's not saying it, but he does Ironmans too. It's a lot fitter than...
Wow, impressive.
Used to be fitter than I am now.
Still do the Ironmans though?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not right now.
No.
Okay.
Yep. So for me, when we got a dog, my wife and I made a commitment to walk him ourselves every night. And he typically walks about an hour. And that has turned into some of the best times because it's an hour outdoors. And my wife and I had some of our best discussions ever, some of our best conversations ever during those hour walks. So it's been very mental. I would say the mental reset on a daily basis, just for an hour, has been very helpful. Physically, of course, we try to work out twice a week. And every 6 months or so, we go to this fitness resort that we've chanced upon in Thailand just to keep the momentum up. So you just go there for a week, work out just about every day.
What's the name of that?
I didn't get any product placement fees, so I'll tell you.
No. We just like to put them in the show notes.
No sponsorship over here.
Yeah. So it's in Phuket. It's called Stay Wellbeing.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
That's cool. No,
Yes.
that's
Simple name. Yes, Stay
That's a fun
Wellbeing.
habit.
Literally just stay there. So yes.
I might have to check that out. All right. Stuff you're reading, watching, listening to that you want to pass on that's been fun or interesting and want to share with the audience.
Actually, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts by this guy called Eric Topol, who's a researcher that looks at... He's written a book called Super Agers, and it's looking at increasing your health span. it is a topic I'm interested in. But the other thing I find fascinating about the way he works, or the things he's trying to put together right now, is he goes, we've reached an inflection point where you have a surfeit of data across things that might interest you. In his case, health, right? Or increased health span, which means you live a lot healthier before you die, right? As opposed to living 20 years as a vegetable, as an old person.
Go out with a bang.
Go out with a bang. Yeah, exactly. I think that's the best way to put it. And he goes, with the research that's been done in multiomics, with the kinds of access to healthcare you can get today, and very importantly, the confluence of all of this with AI is really going to reshape how we live and how health spans are going to extend way beyond what they have been able to do in the past. And I don't think the reason I find this fascinating is, one, because it talks about your health span, but two, because this thinking kind of resonates with me across, many different industries and many different challenges that humans face today. So it's, I've really gotten into a bit of a rabbit hole with this fellow right now.
Got it. We'll make sure that's in the notes.
Yeah.
It's a new name for me. Yeah.
I go into rabbit holes with cosmology and theoretical physics. And right now I'm listening to Les Friedman's interview with Jenna Levine, black holes, wormholes, extra dimensions, and things like that. And the reason for that is because I find that this is one of the best ways to keep myself grounded by understanding how small we are in the grand scheme of things and understanding how much we do not know about the universe, this universe that we live in. And that keeps me very grounded most of the time.
Yeah, I got to say, anytime I've listened to this, where Google had that breakthrough on quantum, and they explain it, I get so lost because it's almost like it gets into the almost
What
double
did you do
universe.
Right afterward.
Bang my head on the table.
Okay.
I mean, I want to say I understand it, but it's just like, oh, it's not quite there. And I think it's teaching us that we don't really know a lot about the universe, right?
Absolutely.
Like as much as we think we do, there's so much to learn. So awesome.
Until we're gonna move to Mars.
Yeah. Phuket would be better, I think. All right, guys. Thank you. This was a lot of fun. Appreciate it. We'll make sure all your links and tidbits are in the show notes. And good luck with the fund. And
good luck.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And again, thanks for everything you're doing with the podcast to raise awareness of our early stage ecosystem.
We're doing our best. I think maybe we need to get one of your founders on. Maybe we can talk about that.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
That
sounds good.
Let's figure that out. So, because I think that's what we're trying to do: raise awareness of these people and the things that are happening in Singapore. Because you read the news, you can get lost in all the bad.
When the people will see them, that they are alive, they are real, and it's important.
So we'll follow up with you on that.
Awesome.
So, awesome. Thank you, guys.